Ukrainian soldiers in Krinky are on the wrong side of a river, cut off from friendly forces. How are they fighting to survive? Leaked drone footage shows just how Ukrainian Marines are still taking the fight to Russia, even as they are on the narrowest strip of a bridgehead in an amphibious assault. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's get into it. Okay, this is, of course, footage from Krinky, the left bank of the Dnipro near Kherson. Let me just show you guys where exactly this appears on the map, because this is important to understand the context fully of what I'm talking about here. And the thing to take away is that if I can get this to switch over to English, okay. So here is Kherson. This was liberated about a year ago in the first Ukrainian counteroffensive, maybe more than a year ago at this point. Russia withdrew across this Dnipro River, and you can see it runs kind of east-west here. The naming convention remains a little Byzantine to me. To me, there's north of the Dnipro and south of the Dnipro, but what can I say? I'm a old school Westerner, man. I learned how to do land nav using a paper map and a compass. So the town is here. Krinky is the name of the town, and it's actually this has this listed as being fully Russian controlled, but actually by most arguments, well, I guess here is listed as being a Ukrainian bridgehead, and there hasn't. I'm going to say 2 months ago, Ukrainian forces crossed the Dnieper in a number of places. The problem they ran into is that they can't establish a permanent bridge because Russian artillery is so pervasive and Russian drones and airstrikes that as soon as they built a permanent structure, the Russians would destroy it. So you have Ukrainian Marines fighting, but they're only able to be resupplied by crossing the Dnieper in boats. And while they haven't been kicked out by Russian forces, they also haven't been able to make a ton of progress. But that's not necessarily Ukraine's goal with this operation. Part of their goal is to provide relief to the citizens of Kherson, civilians who have been subject to Russian artillery and drone bombardment. And by operating and trying to clear a buffer, so to speak, in this southern bank, Ukraine is trying to basically give breathing room to Kherson itself. The other goal is to divert Russian combat forces, right? To force Russia to take its already spread thin troops and divert them to this Kherson region. And we're going to see in this video how Ukrainian Marines really punish the Russian war material that gets diverted to the Krinky area. Now, I'm just gonna put it out there. YouTube hates makes monetizing any video with almost any combat. And I'm going to censor all the combat out of this. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube. But just hit like and subscribe. Okay, so here we've got what looks like a very vintage looking Russian tank. This is an old school pair of tanks, and you can see they're operating along this known cleared path. And it's one of the things that we've seen with tanks in this conflict is that because of the pervasiveness of mines, they have to basically stick to roads that they know are clear. The problem is that when you have a very limited number of cleared paths through the battlefield, it also provides your enemy just a few targets where you could come through, right? Imagine if you didn't have to worry about your enemy coming from one of 50 directions. You had to sit there and you go, listen, I know Russia tanks, they're going to come down one of two possible roads. Then it's very easy to keep eyes on those roads. You have your artillery pointed or I'm using the simple word. We call it pre-planned fires is the military terminology for it. You establish some pre-planned fires. So when those tanks come into sector, well, you'll see. So you could see Russian tankers, right? Again, you see the tank crews could stand to be a little better. God, these are so small, old school tanks. I'm going to try to pull this up here. Right. Let's see. So you have T-90s are the modern Russian battle tank. Right, and we'll try to take a look at these. Let's see if we can find a view of a T-90 from above. Right, let's see, T-90 overhead. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let me pull this up for you lads. Okay, so over here, these are looks of T-90s from overhead. from an overhead view. Now, as you could see, I don't think this is a T-90, right? You could see this is the T-90 main battle tank. Well, I say that. It could be. It could be a T-90. But then you have, let's see if we can find it. I think it's a T-55 is some of the old school stuff we've been seeing, right? And let's see, T-55 overhead is looking, there literally isn't one. Oh, here we go. You can always count on these guys. So there's a T-55, much more basic. So when we look at this, oh, guys, I got bad news. I think this is just a T-55 with reactive armor, right? That's pretty crazy. Now, again, I'm critical of this, but remember, guys, if you're Ukrainian infantry, right, if you're light infantry and you get confronted with a T-55, like, I don't know, I couldn't take out a T-55, not with what I got at my house, And, like, that a T-55 will still be able to do work against light infantry formations, where a T-55 will fall short is against, say, a Bradley or a modern armored or mechanized vehicle. Okay, and we're going to have to censor that. So that was pretty abrupt. Oh. All right, so that was pretty abrupt. You could see that tank. It looks like it just drove over a mine. And the reason I think that is because the level of precision that was involved in that hit, it was a one shot and it hit a moving target. That is, with artillery, even modern systems, very hard to do. But it's illustrative of the fact that just how powerful mining operations are in this conflict, right? The drone simply has to observe that these tanks are en route. And then what I suspect the Ukrainians are doing is using scatterable mines, right? So they sit there and go, okay, there's one of two routes that these tanks are using to approach. The drone sees tanks are going down Route A. And then they call into their artillery and they say, listen, we know they're heading down Route A. And the artillery goes, great. They fire a special type of shell that contains scatterable anti-tank mines. Those shells detonate over top the roadway and scatter anti-tank mines all across the road, so that as the Russian tanks approach, they think they're driving on a cleared road, right? And they were correct. The road was clear 15 minutes ago. But because that artillery round is scattered mines, it means that there's a high likelihood that this tank is going to run into one of them. Oh, it's zooming in. It knows, right? The drone pilot knows that this is passing through it's likely a very mined area, right? You can see a lot of this is scattered. Oh, it's coming to try to bail its buddy. Notice how the track is taken out? That to me is a classic like mine hit. It could be artillery, right? It's not impossible. But remember, artillery comes down from the sky. Mines come up from below. You see tread damage. I think mine. This tank rolls right by his disabled battle buddy, which is a classic Russian move. Okay, you can see other artillery hitting this village here. It's not clear if that's Russian artillery or Ukrainian artillery, but boom, there we go. Another direct hit, right? Let's see if we can back it up. Yeah, you see it's just so precise. I really have a hard time believing that it's not a mine. You can see Russian troops being carried to the battlefield on the top of the tank, just scattering, getting off, absolutely getting their bell rung. Just a real mess. And you can see this tank just getting off the road as fast as possible. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that this isn't a mine, honestly. And you see, this is the thing that makes this war so scary, is that you can inflict this level of damage on your enemy. They never even got to the fighting, right? These Russian troops never even made it to the firefight. And like, this is illustrative of kind of the frustration of like the Iraq and Afghan wars, right? I can tell you, we had fewer than 5 direct fire encounters with the actual Taliban, but we had dozens and dozens of IED strikes where we would just roll around, hit a planted IED or basically a DIY mine, And then we'd go through this whole rigmarole. We'd lose a vehicle. We'd have to get all our sensitive equipment out. We'd have to tow the vehicle back to base. We'd have to do a post-blast analysis. It was a whole big to-do. And we're like, we never even got to like do war. You know what I mean? You never got to do an actual war against anybody. And so like, I feel for them, and but you understand why it's so efficient. This is such an efficient tactic. And look, they notice, these guys notice that the drone is there. And they worry the drone's going to call in more artillery onto them. Oh, look, the dude took a pot shot at the drone. That's pretty funny. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. If you want to support the channel and you want access to the top energy drink alternative, be sure to check out Strike Gum. Right, here's an energy drink I got at a gas station 2 days ago. This is $4, 160 calories, 41 grams of sugar, and for all that, you just get 114 milligrams of caffeine. The alternative, of course, that I have a veteran-owned company, owned by this veteran in particular, made right here in the USA, Strike Gum. This whole pack, $5.99. It's got 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece, right? Plus 100 milligrams of alpha GPC and 0 sugar. So if you want to check it out, go to strikegum.com. Best of all, 50% of the proceeds from this first production run are getting donated to charities that benefit Ukrainian civilians who've been injured or displaced in the conflict. So check us out, strikegum.com. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Cheers.